Hello, 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 hello. Let me share this to my personal page. I okay, just a second. Let me find it. Share it, share it, share it. Where is it? Hello. Okay, I'm trying to find it. Okay, let me share it. Okay, share, share, share it, share it, share it. Where is it? Oh wait, let me. Okay, I'm trying to find it. Okay, let me share it. Hello, Erica. Happy Saturday. Okay, y'all just hold just a second. Hello, everybody. I'm trying to figure out how to share this to my personal page. My phone's acting crazy, so let me get on my iPad. Mm. Okay, there I am. Hello, everybody. Okay, there. That is not what I wanted to do. Okay, there it is. Hello, everybody. I'm trying to figure out how to share this to my personal page. Okay, I think I started a watch party. Now I gotta look on my personal page and see if it's showing up. Hey, BJ. Um, Expat ran. Hey, Trivinia. Okay, so it is showing up. So, hello, 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 hello. I have to make a confession to y'all. I am not a fan of lives. And here's why. When lives first came out, what I hated was that people would always spend all this time at the beginning saying hey to everybody. And I'm like, can we just get to the content? Like, I don't have time for you to have these personal conversations. And so whenever I saw that somebody was doing a live, like I was like, let me go straight past that. And then I started doing Instagram lives for teens. And then I realized how hard it is to not respond when people are commenting. When people are commenting, because you feel like you're watching these comments and then you're talking, but then you're like, but I have a whole audience here like waiting to hear what I have to say, and I'm having a private conversation with a person. So I haven't figured that part out, because I started doing Instagram lives and I started doing the same thing that I hated other people doing, which is responding to people when they ask questions. Like somebody just said, this is your first live, right? Actually, I did another one, but it was a real quick one, probably about 6 or 8 months ago. So for those of you, I don't want to keep you long on this Saturday. It's not like y'all going anywhere, right? But for those of you who aren't familiar with the work that I do, let me just give you a little background. And if you are familiar with the work that I do, then you're going to have to just sit through it again. So my name is Jackie Bruton, and I have been going into middle and high schools for the past 18 years. Sounds crazy, especially since I claim to be 29. What a miracle that is. So this is my second career, which is crazy for me to still be 29. But my first career was in corporate America, and I know some of you are probably joining me from Procter & Gamble, because I still have friends out there who are parents and they still follow my work. But anyway, so I was in corporate America, and this is how I like to describe what happened. I decided that it wasn't enough for me to be successful, that I wanted to be significant. So I left P&G in October 2001, and I actually left to start an after-school program. I wasn't even planning to do what I do. I didn't even know what I'm doing now is even possible. And so I got a 501c3 approved. The name of the after-school program was going to be Breaking the Cycle. It was going to start out with like 8th grade girls. I do 10 girls, follow the girls all the way through high school, get a new group of 10 every year. And ended up meeting a woman at a conference less than a month after I left P&G who worked with another nonprofit where they sent speakers into the schools to talk to teens about making healthy decisions when it comes to love, sex, and relationships. And the rest is kind of history. So I even though I got my 501c3 approved, I never actually had an after school program. So I started out talking to just 8th grade girls because we would separate by gender in middle school. And I would only talk to the girls. We had a male counterpart would talk to the guys. And then we expanded and started doing parent workshops. So then I started doing parent workshops. And then we expanded to high school. So I started doing high school presentations. And then I got a contract with the Department of Family and Children's Services, and I started doing assemblies across the state. So it just has kind of blossomed and snowballed from there. And so 18 years later, I have spoken to well over 100,000. I probably should move it close to 200,000 by now because I've been saying 100,000 for probably 5 or 6 years. And I've gotten letters from over 17,000 high school students. So I will tell you that I hear stuff from teenagers that parents probably would never know. And what I tell the girls when I'm in 8th grade classes, I tell them, I say, guys tell me stuff they would never tell y'all because they're not trying to date me. And so I say that to parents as well. I'm like, your kids tell me stuff they would never tell y'all because I'm not their parent. And students tell me all the time when I'm in the classroom, they'll say, I wish you were my teacher all the time. And I always say, look, if I was your teacher every day, you wouldn't like me either. I said, I come and I talk to you for 3 days in middle school, 2 days in high school. So I'm with you for 3 hours. I said, we get to talk about sex. I don't know your parents. I'm not giving you a grade. I'm like, what's not to like about that? I'm like, it's very different. So that's why I know so much about teens is because of what they tell me. And because the letters are written to me anonymously, like they are very, very, very honest in their letters. And even though so many of them will say, I know I'm not supposed to put my name on this, but here's my email address or here's my number. Like, can you mentor me or can I keep in touch? And I just can't. I mean, I could spend all day, every day talking to teenagers if I didn't have anything else to do. They are so, so, so desperate for positive adult guidance. And that's what some of the letters that I get say. I've been looking for guidance for myself with myself for a long time. And the letters, I tell people that this is the most rewarding thing I've ever done, but it's also the most disheartening thing I've ever done because of so many sad stories. And, you know, I'll do 4 90-minute classes some days. So I'm standing up talking to kids for 6 hours. And that's not even the hardest part of my job. The hardest part would be the conversations that I have after class where I have a student crying in my arms, telling me about, you know, their regrets that they've had. It's just been just so heartbreaking. But I also get the ones where the girls will come back, you know, who are college students, and I've gotten emails from freshmen in college saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, I'm still a virgin and I heard you speak in the 8th grade. And the only thing I feel like I missed out by not having sex is a bunch of mess, because based on what I hear from my friends, like, I'm glad I didn't make that choice because they're so broken and they have so many regrets. So there are a couple of things that I want to talk to you about today. And one of the things, and I've done some interviews. Can y'all tell me if the sound is okay on here, somebody? Because I did an interview in the same room. I did an interview in the same room a couple weeks ago, and it was a horrible echo. So I have a little microphone now. Hopefully that'll make it better. So can somebody comment and tell me whether the sound is right before I get too far in? Okay, thank you. One of the things when they first announced that we were being quarantined and people were staying home, I started hearing or seeing so many of these memes on Facebook about, 9 months from now, we're going to have a bunch of baby boomers having babies. And my first thought, because of what I do, is, well, I'm hoping it's just the baby boomers and not the teens. And the reason that I had that reaction, number one, is because of what I do every day and the stories that I hear. Because I hear things about what kids do when they have time at home when they're not quarantined, just when their moms are at work. And I thought, wow, in those situations where parents are still going to work every day, but now their kids are not just home after school, but they're home all day. Like, I can only imagine what some of those choices might end up being. And so I came up with like some tips that I think that parents need to know more, even more so now than in the past, about how to protect their kids from making poor choices when it comes to sex. And the first one is, it sounds so simple, but it's just make sure you've had that conversation about what your expectations are. Because you would be surprised how many kids tell me they have never had a conversation with their parents about sex. And I'm not talking little kids. I'm talking high school students who are sophomores, juniors, seniors in high school. And they're like, I've never had a conversation with my parents about sex. Like, I learned from television, or I learned from the media, I learned from my friends. And we all know that is not where you want your kids to learn about sex. And about this time last year, I was doing a thing on, I'm not supposed to touch my face. Oh, that is so hard. I did a thing on Instagram where I asked the girls, I said, I was doing videos, and I said, if you have a question that you want me to answer, I said, would you please send it to me and I'll do a video to answer your question. And I had a young lady write me a question, and she said, can you do a video on what to do, how to move on after you've messed up? So I did a video about you're not your choices, and it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You still have value. You can't change your past, but you can impact your future. And so I sent it to her in the direct message, just in case she wasn't on my feed when it showed up. And so she emailed me back and said it was really helpful. And then she started to tell me her story. And I did 2 blog posts about this. The story was so interesting that it was a 2-part blog post. And her story was that she got pregnant when she was 12 years old. 12 years old. And she had her baby at 13. She said, you are the first person that has told me that I could still make something out of my life. You're the first person that hasn't judged me. And so as we were commenting back and forth in the direct messaging on Instagram, I asked her, I said, I think parents need to know your story, because I think there are a lot of parents who might not have had the conversation with their daughter, just like your mom never did. And they need to understand what can happen when they don't have this conversation. So I said, do you mind talking? So we ended up talking on the phone for like 2 hours. And that's where my blog post came, my 2-part blog post came from. And so one of the questions I asked her is, I said, I asked her, I said, did y'all not use any protection? And she said, I thought I was too young to get pregnant. She thought she was too young to get pregnant, and she was 12 years old. And I said, well, had you started your menstrual cycle? And she said, yeah, I started my menstrual cycle when I was 11. And I said, so your mom never explained to you, now that your menstrual cycle has started, like this is what that means? And she said, my mom did not know that I had a boyfriend. So I'm sure her mom thought, I need to wait until she's a teenager to have that conversation, because she's not even liking anybody now. She's not in a relationship. And she said, the only thing my mom ever said to me was, she said, we were in the car driving one day, and she said, now that you've started she didn't even say now that you start your menstrual cycle. She said, when you get older, you don't need to have sex, because that means you could get pregnant and it could change your life. That's the only thing her mom had ever said to her about sex. She was 12. She was in the 7th grade. She was dating a guy who was in the 9th grade. So she's 12, he's 14. And I mean, the classic way this happened is it's what I often hear. So one reason she said she didn't want to tell her mom that she had a boyfriend was because she knew that if her mom knew she was dating somebody in high school, her mom wouldn't let her have the relationship. So for parents who are out there, just because you don't see your child in a relationship doesn't mean they're not in a relationship. They hide these things because if they know you're going to be upset if they're in a relationship, they're not going to tell you if they want to be in a relationship. They're not going to tell you. So you need to have the conversation, even if you don't think the conversation is needed. So the guy she was 7th grade, he was 9th grade. He says to her, I want to spend more time with you, but there are a lot of people at my house, so we wouldn't have any privacy. What is the situation at your house? And she said, oh, my parents are divorced and it's just me and my mom. My mom doesn't get home until 7:30 at night. And he's like, oh, cool. I'll just come over. So he gets his older brother to drop him off, tells his parents that he's going to do homework at a friend's house. Yeah, it was homework, all right. He drops him off, gets to drop him off. They end up having sex. She gets pregnant because there was no conversation even had with her. Not a conversation about dating somebody that's older than you, you being in middle school, dating somebody's high school. That conversation didn't happen. A conversation didn't happen about what can happen now that you've started your menstrual cycle. I mean, there's so many things that didn't happen. And I tell parents always say, well, how do I have the talk? And I'm like, the biggest mistake I think that parents make is that they make the talk about sex. And that's their first conversation they ever have about love, sex, and relationships is it's about sex. You should be talking to them about healthy relationships. And you can have that conversation whether they're in a relationship or not. And you can use the media to have those kind of conversations. When you see something that is happening on a television show that's not healthy, then you need to say, oh, let's talk about what just happened here. So have the conversation, make it not just about sex, but also don't just talk about the negatives and the consequences of having sex. Talk about, like I like to say when I teach in the class, and one of the things that I think has made me effective with the teens is because I say that I teach towards something and not away from something. So I'm not, and yes, I talk to them about the consequences they can get from having sex, but I think I have a better chance of getting them to make a good choice if I can help them find their yes. What is that dream, that goal, that vision that they say, I want this thing so badly that I'm not going to let anybody or anything keep me from getting it. Because if they don't have a bigger yes out there, they'll say yes to anything. And kids only consider something at-risk behavior if they think they're risking something. They only protect a future if they think they have a future. And so I think a bigger way to prevent teens from making poor choices, whether that's sex, drugs, or alcohol, is to help them figure out what is it that they want so badly that it's not worth it. And so when I'm in the class, I like to get them to come to the conclusion themselves that it's not worth it instead of me telling them. Because and y'all know how teenagers are. The minute I stand up there and they'll say, I thought you were going to come in here and just tell us how sex was bad and we were going to die if we had sex and all this kind of stuff. And they say the thing that they appreciated is because I didn't try to scare them out of having sex. Like I had a mom tell me, she was at the post office and I was going in to mail some books and she found out what I did. She worked at the post office. And she said, my daughter's going to high school next year. She said, and you know how I'm going to scare my daughter? I'm going to keep my daughter from having sex. She said, over the summer, I'm going to go and I'm going to show her the most diseased penises I can find. I'm going to show her pictures of all these diseased penises so that she won't even come close to a boy. And I said, let me tell you the problem with that strategy. I said, she can get an STD from somebody whose penis doesn't look anything like that. Because if you find a picture of a diseased penis, that is an extreme case. I said, most STDs are being spread by people who don't even know they have them. I said, there are STDs that are spread by skin-to-skin contact. So, I mean, even if they have a condom, you can still get it because the condom doesn't cover the entire genitals. I said that they can spread an STD before they even have symptoms. So if your education to her is don't have sex if you see something that looks like this, well, what's she going to do if she sees a penis or something that doesn't look like that? She's going to say, oh, I'm straight. He's good. I know he doesn't have anything because he doesn't look like the picture that my mom showed me. So that's the problem with always trying to scare them out of having sex and always trying to talk about the negative of them having sex is, I mean, fears can be conquered. I think it was John Wooden, however you say that man's name, who said pride is a better motivator than fear. So teach them to reach toward a dream and a goal instead of trying to scare them out of having sex. So anyway, so that's the first thing you need to do is while they're out, you have plenty of time to have conversations with them about not just sex, but about healthy relationships. Have conversations with them about loving themselves, about what does loving themselves look like? What does respecting themselves look like? What does respecting the other person look like? And here's the deal, like The majority of the products that I have are for teen girls, but I don't just talk to teen girls, and I'm not one of those people that puts the onus on teen girls to not have sex. Like, I'm not that person. I talk to guys as well. And as a matter of fact, my experience has been over the last few years, maybe 5 years or so, I have a easier time talking a teenage boy out of having sex than I do a teenage girl. And I could do a whole Facebook Live on why that's the case. But so so anyway, so I talk to guys too, but I'm going to tell you at the end about a excuse me, about a masterclass. Where's my bottle of water? About a masterclass that I'm going to do this just for teen girls. And so that's why most of what I'm talking about, I mean, the tips that I'm giving you, these are for your sons and for your daughters. But I'll talk a lot about girls because I talk to girls more than guys, just because all of the middle school students that I talk to in classrooms are all girls. Now, high school classes are co-ed, so I do have a lot of experience with boys as well. So anyway, so the first thing is to have that conversation. The second thing is monitor what your kids are doing as much as possible. Now, you don't necessarily want to make them feel like you don't trust them, even though that's probably the case. You can't do it in that way that you don't trust them. But like, so many kids tell me that they have sex when their parents aren't home. And a lot of them have it when they are home. They're sneaking them through the windows when y'all go to bed at night. So y'all need to put those little sensors on your windows and doors so that somebody sneaking somebody in at night, like that alarm goes off and says beep, 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 beep. I mean, I'm just saying. And I'm not an alarmist, but I'm telling you from experience, you need to be concerned about some of these things. So if you're still going to work every day, I would say call home regularly and at different times of the day so that they're caught off guard. Like, you can't become predictable, like where they know, oh, my mom's not going to get home until this time, so I can do whatever I want between this window and that window because she's not going to check on me. Even if you can vary the time that you come home, if you're still going to work every day, where you're coming home at different times. If it's possible, like, pop in on your lunch hour. See, this is harder with social distancing, because I normally would say have a neighbor or a family member like pop in on them unexpected throughout the day if they're home. Like, this is for my summertime tips, but for in this situation where it's social distancing and you're not coming over, that's a little bit more difficult. But just like, don't become so predictable that they know when they have this window that they can do some things and not get caught. That's kind of my second tip. The third tip is, do not give them unlimited freedom with technology. And I've heard it multiple times that really shocked me. And every time I say I can't be shocked by something, like, I'll hear something else and I'll get shocked. And I'm like, doggone it, I thought I'd heard it all. Y'all keep coming up with new stuff. So the first thing that I heard was about parents giving their kids their own debit cards with their own, like, credit card number that's on this debit card. So what those kids are doing is they're setting up Uber accounts with this, because you have to have a credit card number. Although somebody told me now you can use the Cash app even with Uber. I think with Lyft you can't, but I think with Uber they're saying you can use the Cash app. But anyway, what they're doing is they are because the first time somebody told me, I'm sorry, y'all, I keep jumping around. My brain works 10 times faster than my mouth. The first time I heard this, a guy said that a 16-year-old girl texted him and said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm playing video games." And she said, "My parents are going to be gone for 2 hours. 2 hours. That's all. 2 hours. That's all it took. My parents are going to be gone for 2 hours. It's just me and my little brother here at home. So why don't I send an Uber over to get you and we can have sex?" This wasn't even his girlfriend, just a friend. So she Ubers him over to his house, over to her house. They have sex and she Ubers him back home. So I'm like a little shocked. I'm like, how does that happen? I'm like, because when I use a rideshare company, I pay with the credit card and I get a receipt with to my email. So why wouldn't the parent know that this person, that their child used an Uber to Uber somebody over to have sex? And then an eighth grade girl explained to me how it happened. She said, we have our own debit cards. She said, so the email comes to my own email address. And so she's Ubering to places that maybe she shouldn't go, or Ubering people to her house that she shouldn't Uber over. Her parents have no idea that it's happening because it's her debit card, even though it's the parents' money, it's her debit card, her card number, her email address. And the crazy thing about this particular situation is I found out from a teacher later that this same eighth grade girl had been having sex with a grown man that she met online, and she was Ubering to meet him. Y'all, and I talked to this girl, sweetest little girl. You would have never thought, when the teacher told me that I was telling the teacher who this girl was that I talked to, and she's like, oh yeah, I told her what the girl said. She's like, yeah, you know where she was Ubering? She was Ubering to meet a grown man that she met on online. So he got arrested, by the way, because when she told the teacher mandated reporter, so the teacher reported it, and the adult man got arrested. What that parent just did is by giving her a debit card, putting the money in the account, she's given her the ability to go wherever she wants to go, do whatever she wants to do, and go wherever she wants to go. And they have absolutely no knowledge of it. Absolutely no knowledge. Another situation where a girl, 12-year-old girl, was at a party, birthday party, 13-year-old's birthday party. In the middle of the night, 12-year-old girl calls an Uber. Uber comes and picks her up. Oh, this party, by the way, is at a hotel room. And the mom is in another room. So the mom is asleep in another room. 13-year-old daughter is having a 13-year-old birthday party. Calls an Uber, takes her to a 14-year-old boy's house at 2:00 in the morning. She Ubers back at 4:00 in the morning. Y'all, this is scary. This is so scary. One of the things that I ask girls in the classroom when I'm in middle schools is I say, when you have a child, how will you parent differently than you're being parented? But I also ask the opposite of, what are you going to do that your parents are doing that you really like? And one young lady said, if my kids need money, I am going to give them cash and not give them a credit card. And every time they tell me what they would do differently, I know there's a story behind it. And so I always say, tell me more. And so she said, I said, why do you say that? And she said, now, this is something I used to do. I don't do it anymore. Now, mind you, she's in the 8th grade. So this is something that she used to do. She said, my parents gave me their credit card, and I would call Ubers to take me places that I probably never should have gone. And she said, because I know that I did that, I'm never going to do that for my kids, because I know my daughter might do it too. Y'all, crazy. This is crazy. Crazy. Anyway, so that's the other thing, is limit technology, access to technology and credit cards while they're home, because they can get in a lot of trouble with those credit cards. It's just crazy. Let me see what else. So those are my tips. I'll just stop there with my tips of how you can protect your kids while they're home. And let me just share with you a couple of other things that I think, well, I've been on here almost 30 minutes, and I didn't want to be on here this long. Really long. So let me just tell you, if you're not familiar with me, I have a lot of free resources for you to be able to, for your teen and for you. And so I'm going to go through, and I have some that you can purchase as well, but I'm going to go through all of my resources, because I think during this time that school is out, like, this is a perfect time for your kids to be able to consume some of these resources, and for you to be able to have some of these conversations with them. Let me, before I leave this, something that you can do, since have all this time at home, is one of the things that teens tell me when I ask that question about what will you do differently than your parents? And I know this is going to shock a lot of parents, but the most common thing that I hear from teens is, I am going to spend more time with my kids than my parents do. It always breaks my heart. The first, oh, okay. She says our kids say the more we limit them with technology, money, et cetera, the more they feel like we don't trust them. What do we do about that? That is a great question. Thank you, Travinia. See, I told you this is about this live. I get distracted, and because I was in the middle of a sentence, and then I read her question. Now I have to try to remember. Okay, I'll get back to that, Travinia. So the thing that they ask is, they say is, I want to spend more time. I'm going to spend more time with my kids. And so, if nothing else comes out of being home, like please, 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 please use this time to bond with your kids in a way that you may not have felt like you had time to do before. And I've heard all the reasons from kids. Like one girl said, when I was younger, my mom and I used to spend a lot of time together because it's just the two of us. And but now that I've gotten older, like she never has time for me, and she's dating somebody now, and I feel like she's putting him before she's putting me. Had another girl said, I come home and I try to tell my mom about what happened at school, and said she's just sitting scrolling through Instagram on her phone. And I finally just give up because I can't compete with her cell phone. Another girl told me the day before school was out, she said, when I have kids, not going to put my work first because my mom worked so much, and she never has time for me because of work. So if nothing, and I know what parents tell me. Parents say, well, whenever I tell my kids that I want to spend time with them, or they don't want to be, they want to be with their friends. They don't want to spend time with me. They want to be with their friends. You know what some of this is? I think kids want to know, how bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough to fight for it? Like, do you want to, like, they know that your most valuable resource is your time. And I'm not saying they get it initially, but don't give up trying. And sometimes it's like, let them decide, join them in what they're doing instead of trying to make them join you in what you're doing or what you have planned. Like, go to their room. They might be annoyed initially, fall in their bed, like start talking, say, let's watch the show together. I had a mom tell me that her teenage daughter, when she came home every day, she said, one of the things I had to do was, when she came home, she could not have her phone until 7:30 at night. She said, because if I did not do that, she would never come down and spend time with the family. Because as soon as she got home from school, she would go straight to her room, and she might come out for dinner and go back in her room, and we would never see her if I did not force it. And she said, yeah, initially her daughter was upset because you're forcing me, you're taking my phone from me until 7:30 at night. I'm touching my face again. Oh, it's so hard. She said, but eventually, like, she started to realize that it wasn't so bad. And it went from, this is not so bad, having to come down and watch TV with my little sisters and play games with my little sisters. It's not so bad for me to be in the family room and not in my room. And it went from, it's not so bad, to she acted like she enjoyed it. And so sometimes, even when kids say they hate us for what we do, like, we have to be the ones to say, you might hate me now, but eventually you'll come around and you'll understand why I did this. And I'll give you an example of that. Like, I had my former neighbor, she said that she didn't have social media, and she was 13. And I said, I tell this story a lot, so she might be watching this, or her mom might be. But I said, why don't you have social media? Is that your mom won't let you? And she said, no. She said, it was my choice. She said, I see how stressed out my friends are with social media, and I have enough stress in my life trying to do my work. She said, why do I want to watch a play-by-play of the party that I didn't get invited to? And see, that's what these kids are dealing with now, or they were dealing with before. There are no parties going on now. But like, when we were growing up, if we didn't get invited to a party, most of the time we didn't even know there was a party. Now we have kids who don't get invited to parties, and now they're sitting on Snapchat and they're having to watch a play-by-play of a party that they didn't get invited to, which makes their self-esteem go even lower. So, and now this young lady was 13. She didn't have social media. She has it now, but I guarantee you she's a responsible person with it, just based on how mature she was at 13. But then I was in DC doing a thing, an event, a father-daughter dance, and I had a 17-year-old girl told me she did not have social media. And I said, you're the second teenager who's told me that they didn't have social media. I said, why did you give it up? And she said, it wasn't my choice. She said, I made some inappropriate decisions on social media. And my parents took it from me. And she said, but it was the best thing they could have ever done for me. She said, I'm so much more focused. I'm so much less stressed. And I said, wow. I said, did you tell your parents how much you appreciated them? And she said, oh no. She said, I hated them. Now, she hated them initially, but the parents knew that that was the best thing for her. And sometimes we have to say, I'm going to deal with being hated in the moment, knowing that I am making the best choice for my child. And that even if she doesn't get it now, she'll get it later. And so that kind of gets me back to the question that you asked about your kids feel like you don't trust them when you take stuff away from them, you limit them. And here's the deal. I think so many times the reason kids feel like that, well, I don't know. I just think that's their first instinct. But I think we have to do a better job of explaining to them the real reason why. This is what I tell kids in the classroom, is I said, this whole thing about teen brain development. I am all over the place in this slide, y'all have to forgive me. That's how my brain works. Like, I just have so much content and so much to say. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm sitting on a gold mine because I have all this stuff that kids tell me, and I'm like, wow, I wish parents knew this. I wish parents knew this. Like, your parents don't have a clue that when they do this, they think it's getting this, but you're looking at it a totally different way. But, and now I just lost my thought. Darn it. This is what I tell them. I say, here's the deal. I said, your parents are not trying to ruin your life. I guarantee you that your parents don't wake up every day and say, what can I do to ruin my kids' lives? What can I do to make my kids miserable? I guarantee you they don't do that. And I said, here's what you don't understand. I said, the last part of your brain that is going to develop is the prefrontal cortex. And that's the part, I said here, it's here. That's the part that associates consequences with decisions. And I said, and the decisions that you're making as teenagers, they make perfect sense to you because you don't always see the danger in the decisions because your brains aren't fully developed. I said, I don't even blame you. Like, it's just what happens with teenagers. And I said, the issue is your parents' brains are fully developed because their prefrontal cortex is already developed. So they can see danger where you might not be able to see danger. So for you not to understand why you don't just need to seek out, listen to their counsel when they're trying to help you navigate through this world, but you also need to seek out their advice, is the equivalent of that you're swimming through shark waters. There's sharks out there waiting to eat you alive: drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography. And your parents are overhead and they know exactly where the sharks are. Number one, because they've already swam through those waters. Number two, because their brains are fully developed and they can see danger where you can't. And so for you not to understand is the equivalent of you saying, let me swim into my own sharks. Let me swim into my own sharks. And kids get it. Like, when you explain it like that they're not trying to ruin your life. I also do this analogy about a goldfish bowl. You have a goldfish in a bowl, and the goldfish is sitting in there saying, "Oh, my parents are so horrible. They're trying to ruin my life. There's a whole world out there I can't see, and they have me cooped up in this little bowl." And I said, what would happen if the goldfish got out of the bowl? If the parent said, "Okay, you want out? Let me let you out. You can do whatever you want to do. You can have all the freedom you want." The goldfish is going to die. And I say, that's what your parents' boundaries are. They're there to protect you, not to ruin your life. So if you can explain those kind of things and use those kind of analogies kind of help kids get it a little better. And then explain to them, start out by saying, it's not that I don't trust you, but just share your heart with them about how scared you are about them being in this world. It's not about trust. It's about trying to protect them and how differently things are today than they were for you. But here's the other thing, because this leads me to another freebie that I have, is one of the things that I think makes it easier for kids to accept the boundaries that they're given by their parents is when they really, really, really know the parent's heart. And so I created this template called The Letter That Every Mom Needs to Write Her Teen Daughter. And it's a downloadable template. Of course, you don't fill in the blanks, even though it has blanks there. You write it by hand. But I even give you options about words to say, about this is what I wish for you. These are my fears for you. But anyway, download that and write your child a letter. And I think that will make it easier for them, not just for one particular like boundaries you might have, but just in general. I think sometimes that might make it easier for them to understand. And I think sometimes even when you're giving them boundaries, I think it's so much easier. I am just such a proponent of letter writing that you don't just write that one letter. I think writing stuff sometimes allows you to really share your heart. And I'm not saying that replaces like one-on-one conversation, but I think writing stuff out sometimes allows you to really, really share your heart, and it allows the child to be able to remember what you said because they have it on paper and they can go back and reread what you say over and over and over again. The other thing, Travinia, is like I share with the kids a lot of articles of what happened to other teens in situations. So if it's something like vaping, like I show them a picture of a kid in Texas who had to have a double lung transplant because of vaping. And I get letters from kids saying, wow, I had no idea that could be a possibility. I show them about sexting. I show them, articles. I put it up on the screen. I'll screenshot an article. And I'll show them the article that says, this is why your parents might not want you to do this, because can you imagine being a parent and you had to look at to live with yourself knowing that you did not put boundaries in place for your kid in this area, and this is what happened to them. And it's one thing for you to say it and they still do it. Like you don't feel as guilty because you tried to prevent them. But if you didn't put those boundaries in place and then they ended up getting a negative consequence because you did not even share, then you're going to feel guilty. And I tell the kids, put yourself in your parent's situation. Put yourself in their shape. How would they feel? And I'll tell you, see, I'm trying to get off of this thing, but this is how I get in class too. I always run out of time. The other thing is, like, I remember my niece, my sister wouldn't let her spend the night in anybody's house. And she just thought my sister was the most horrible person. And she's like, I can't, all my friends think that she's so-and-so and whatever. And I share with her some of the letters that I get from, and we just put the link in the comments for the letter template. I shared with her some of the letters that I get from girls who were molested at a sleepover by one of their friends' older brothers, or molested by a stepdad at a sleepover. Like, I shared with her some of those stories, and I said, this is why your mom has this fear of you going to sleepovers, because it's not that she doesn't trust you at a sleepover. She knows what can happen because she doesn't know the values of your friend's parents. She doesn't know what's out there in another situation. And my niece said she finally understood. And I said, put yourself in her shoes. How would you feel if you let your child go to a sleepover and that happened? So a lot of times it's, asking them to put themselves in your shoes. Sometimes like that will help. And I don't know if to answer your question, Travinia, or not, but it's tough being a parent. I mean, it's tough knowing the balance between how strict, because you can't be too strict. Because kids always say, do parents not understand that the tighter that you hold the bar of soap, the farther it will project? And so I saw this thing once that it said, rules without a relationship equals rebellion. And it was specifically talking about sex. In this situation, it says a relationship with rules equals promiscuity. I mean, a relationship without rules. So if you're the parent that says, I'm going to be your friend and you can do what you want to do, I mean, promiscuity. But they said positive parents is when you have a relationship and you have rules. So you got to have the balance of both. So I was going to the resources. So the free resources that I have available for you, number one, on my website, you can go and download an ebook, 7 Things Every Parent of a Teen Needs to Know Before Having the Talk. And that's kind of a misnomer because there's no such thing as the talk. It needs to be a continuous conversation. But you can download that for free. I talked about the letter every mom should write her teen daughter. I put that in the comments, or we put that in the comments. There's also on my website, if you go to the parent section on my website, there is a free masterclass, and it is 7 secrets your teen daughter will never tell you. And you can go and watch that. It's just an evergreen webinar that I did that's on my website. Go and watch that 7 secrets your teen daughter will never tell you. There's also, if you're not subscribed to my blog, please make sure you subscribe. I send out blog posts weekly that gives you a glimpse inside the world of teens. A lot of the stories that I'm sharing, I try to end every blog post with tips for parents in that area, and you'll get to see what teens are going through. And my blog is really tailored to moms of teen daughters. Even though I talk to guys, I mean, I had to hone in my avatar. And so it's for moms of teen daughters. I mean, dads are on there as well. So, I mean, you can subscribe if you're a dad. Also, I have videos on my YouTube channel for parents. I have a whole section of videos just for parents. If you have a daughter, make sure she follows me on Instagram and YouTube, because I have video. Instagram page is really all the content that I push to Instagram is just for teen girls. And YouTube, I have over 300,000 views on my YouTube videos. So make sure she subscribes. We're going to be adding a lot more there. And then I also have resources that you can purchase on my website. And so here's the thing, that the question that I got the most when I was doing parent workshops, or the comment I got the most, moms and dads would say, I wish I could take you home to talk to my daughter. I wish I could take you home to talk to my daughter or my son. And of course, that wasn't possible. So what I did was I created these 2 DVDs. One is Sex Talk Every Teen Girl Needs to Hear, and the other is the Sex Talk Every Teen Guy Needs to Hear. And so I created these. The response has been amazing. People have used them for youth groups. I recommend that you use this as a way to have a conversation. And I say you watch it first, so you'll know what questions you want to bring up, and then have your daughter watch it, and your son watch it, and then I did them backwards. Your son, your daughter, and then y'all watch it together and have a discussion. And people are using these DVDs with youth groups. So now it's social distance. You're not having in-person youth groups, but you could do a Zoom and show it on a Zoom video. And I had a group did it, and she said that they were going to use this one in an hour, and she said they only made it to 15 minutes because the girls had so much to say about each little section. They had to keep stopping it, and I think it took them like a month to get through this. So then parents started to say, well, you did want something for girls, what about for parents? So then I created this DVD for parents, and it's the Sex Talk Every Parent Needs to Have. It's an hour and 30 minutes worth of content, 5 different sections. It talks about teen brain development. It talks about a lot of things. I recommend you get that. I also have e-courses on my website for girls and parents. The first one is for parents, the tough conversation, how to have the tough conversations. And there are 3 tough conversations that parents have told me the most that it's hard for them to have. The first tough conversation is how to talk to them about pornography. The next one is how to talk to them about rape or molestation. And that's one of the 7 secrets your teen daughter will never tell you. And I would say, watch that masterclass on my website. And I think you're going to be shocked by some of the things that you see in the masterclass. And the third conversation is, how do I talk to my daughter about not having sex when she's a teenager, when she knows that I did because I had her when I was a teenager? And so there are videos for each and questions that you can have, videos where I'm talking to you and I'm talking to your daughter as well about how to understand that. And then there's also an e-course on my book for girls, Dating Boundaries 101. And it's 7 videos, and it's why you need boundaries. And in this video is one of the things I talk about is what I just shared with you about the teen brain development and the swimming through shark filled waters and the goldfish. And when they're hearing it from somebody else besides you, I think that helps too. Because that's one of the things that teens tell me in their letters all the time is, yeah, my parents have talked to me about this, but it really stuck when you said it because I need to hear from somebody other than my parents. I don't know why. That doesn't mean you don't have the conversation, but it is what it is. So the first one is, why do you need boundaries? What are the boundaries you need to have? And I talk about people boundaries, places boundaries, physical boundaries, and then media consumption boundaries. And then what do you do if the person is not respecting your boundaries? So that is an e-course that's on my website for your daughter. There's a great dating journal guide. It's 30-something pages that she actually goes through, and she, by the end of going through this course, she actually writes a game plan of what's my game plan as to how I'm not going to have sex. Like, what are the boundaries that I'm going to set in all these areas? Media boundaries, people boundaries, places boundaries, physical boundaries. And then what are my dreams and my goals? So that's the Dating Boundaries e-course. And then, of course, I have this book. And I tell you, I've been blown away by the response to this book, not just with girls, but also with guys. And it's just been crazy. I printed out something, but I don't think I went and picked it up out of the printer. I was going to tell you some of the things, the response that I've gotten from people who've shown this book with in youth groups, where they would put the boys on one side, the girls on the other side, and they would do a discussion about each one of the chapters of this book. The one lady said after the first night, they wanted to skip the icebreaker, and they said, we don't want to play the games, we want the icebreaker, we want to go straight to the book. Oh wow. Okay, see, I'm doing it again. I'm answering the questions. That's crazy. Do you have any advice for teens who are trying to convince their parents to stay home? Wow. Sounds like that teen's brain is more developed than the parent. That's mean, right? I shouldn't have said that. Oh, wow. Um, are you saying stay home during this whole coronavirus thing? Surely not. You just mean stay home in general, not they're trying to convince their advice to stay home now. But anyway, let me get back to that. Answer that question. Tell me if that's what you're talking about. So anyway, so this book has been just amazing. Like one lady told me, ew, that's sad. Okay, I'm gonna get back to that. One lady told me that she did it with a group at her church, and when she gave it to them as a Christmas present. She bought like 10 and gave it to them over Christmas, and said the girls came back and said that book gave me my whole life. And let me tell you the other thing that was amazing. I had a dad who had found out that his daughter was, he had gone through her cell phone and seen some text messages that were inappropriate. And so he calls me and says, can I drive to your house and pick up this book? Because I need to have a conversation with, it was his stepdaughter, it was my stepdaughter. He drove over, picked up the book. He tells me 2-3 weeks later that he was able to address everything, all of the things that he had read about in his daughter's text messages without ever letting her know that he read her text messages, because everything that he had read was covered in the book. And they would read a chapter together. They would read a chapter and discuss it every night. And he said it got to the point where his daughter even initiated having the conversations. So he thanked me and said, this book allowed me to address issues with my daughter without her even knowing that I knew what she was doing. And she was able to see the error of her ways just by what was in this book. Like, that's huge. But anyway, so the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that I am doing a healthy relationship masterclass for teen girls on April 13th at 8 p.m. And it's called Intro to 7 Secrets, a guide to a girl knowing her type. And I talk about in this book about the 3 types of girls that read this book. The girls who, well, I won't tell you what those 3 types are, and the 3 types of guys, which are in the book as well. But anyway, make sure you sign your daughter up for this free masterclass on April 13th at 8 p.m. It's going to be amazing. I already know. And it's amazing how this coronavirus is requiring me to do online stuff, which I should have been doing all along. But anyway. Okay, so back to this. For teen girls who are trying to convince their parents to stay home. You know what? I'm going to resort back to writing them a letter. Because here's this thing about letters. You're able to really, really, really share your heart. And you don't have to worry about the other person being defensive. You don't have to worry about, I didn't get to get everything out that I wanted to say, because when I said this thing, they got defensive and they started saying this, and then it shut me down and they shut down. And have the teen girl talk about how much they love their parent and how much it would break their heart if anything ever happened to them. And this is why I want you to stay home, and do it from a point of, like, anytime you write a letter, it's always from the point of writing it from your heart and a point of love and not a point of accusation. And when you do this, this is what it does to me. It's always about, I love you so much that the thought of losing you as a parent is more than I can handle right now. Just the thought of that just breaks my heart, and it hasn't even happened. So I am pleading with you to, if you won't do this for yourself, like, do it for me, because I had to tell you, because if anything ever happened, I would blame myself for not letting you know how much it scares me and how much I love you. Like, this is also a way for the daughter to maybe express their love to their parent, that maybe their parent thinks that, oh, my daughter hates me. Because I have a lot of parents who say, I think my daughter hates me. So that's the only thing I have to offer. That's a tough one. I mean, if I could convince people that they need to stay home, there are a lot of people out there that I would, I could sell the formula for that. So I don't know. That's a tough one. That's crazy too. It's crazy. So now that I have finished with my content, does anybody have any questions before? I really don't want this to go an hour, because when people see videos that are hour on Facebook and they go back to do the replay, like they just skip straight through. So, can you put in the chat like where you're from, city and state? Like, I'm just really interested in knowing where you're, tuning in from, what cities and states that I have represented. I'm looking. Or if you have any questions that you want me to answer, let me know that too before I jump off. Savannah, yay. Tell those people to get off Tybee Beach. Phoenix, oh, hi, Rachel. Pennsylvania. Wow. Cleveland. Oh, wow, I love this. Twinsburg, Ohio. Wow. So, and that's the benefit of doing this online thing. Like, your kids, when you're in these other states, would never have the opportunity. I shouldn't say never. It's not necessarily likely that they would get to hear me in person. From New Jersey, but you live in Georgia. So I'm really excited. So make sure you share this with your friends who might have teen daughters. I remember when you came to North High School and spoke to my personal fitness class. Oh, wow. I love it. I love it when I have former students who chime in. But yeah, so it has been 57 minutes and I had not planned on being here too long. Make sure you go and, and the thing is, like, to join the thing next Monday on the 13th, they don't have to have read this book, but I would highly recommend that they get it and read it. But if they haven't read it before then, like, they'll still get benefit from the content that I'm going to share on the 13th, whether they've read the book or not. But I mean, it is a wonderful book, and I'm not just saying that because I wrote it, but it's a great book. So thank you so much for joining, and let me know if you want me to do more of these since y'all are home and you don't have anything else to do. We're all home. But I just posted on Facebook this morning. I don't say I'm changing. I'm not saying I'm stuck at home. I'm saying I'm staying home. And I recognize that a lot of people wish they had homes where they could stay, and they don't. So I'm just grateful for this time to be able to pump out some products, because I'm working on 2 additional books that I'd already started, and so I'm hoping to get them finished up while I have this extra time that I didn't think I would have. And it's going to be a book for girls and a book for guys. And this book is going to be, I'll go ahead and give you all a little sneak peek about this book. These 2 books. So these books, they actually were ebooks, and I'm actually expanding them to make them into paperback books. And the original title, and I'm going to change the title, but the original title was Sex Why Wait? 20 Reasons Why Teen Girls Did or Wish They Had. And then the same thing for guys, Sex Why Wait? 20 Reasons Why Teen Guys Did or Wish They Had. And so what I did was, it's based on the 17,000 letters that I have. Like, I see a pattern. I see themes in there. And so what I did was I came up with the top 10 reasons why teen guys said that they were not having sex. And then I came up with the 10 worst reasons that teen boys tell me that they do have sex. And so I wrote a commentary for each one of those 20 reasons, and I have letters, because kids love being able to read other people's stories, other teenagers' stories. So I have letters, and then I write commentaries on those letters. And that's when it was just the ebook. And then for the paperback book, what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm making it into a guide. And so I think the title might be A Teen Guy's Guide to the Truth About Sex and A Teen Girl's Guide to the Truth About Sex. I don't know. I'm still marinating on that and praying about that. But for each one of those 20 reasons, I'm coming up with 5 reflective questions that if they're reading the book by themselves, like they can answer and reflect upon, okay, how does this reason resonate with me? So in each one of the books, there will be 100 questions that can be answered, which makes it perfect as a guide if anybody wants to use it in a group setting. Because a lot of times people were asking me, I'm also working on a companion. I should have already had it out, but it's amazing what a lot of time on your hand can help you do. A companion guide for this that has questions and that for girls to answer and make it more reflective too. It's going to be a guided journal is what we're calling it. But because a lot of people have asked me about, they wanted to use this as a book club and they wanted questions that they could use for the book club. And so this guided journal will help with that. But these two new books that I'm doing, the Teen Girl's Guide to the Truth About Sex and Teen Guy's Guide to the Truth About Sex. I keep saying it like that's my real title. Anyway, I'm just playing around with it. But anyway, those books can be great for group discussions as well. So anyway, those are two additional things that I'm working on. Okay, I am really gonna, an hour and 1 minute. I'm really gonna sign off now. But thank y'all so much for joining, and let's stay in touch. Let me know if this was helpful. Shoot me an email. Go to my website, Jackie@JackieBruton.com is my email. And I hope to see your daughter on my masterclass on April 13th. And please, 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 please spread the word. Thanks. Bye.